both assistants, Alexa and Siri. This big body Cadillac has got a lot of muffins inside of it. What's up everybody, this is Scott and welcome back to another video. In my last video I talked about why you shouldn't buy the HomePod, and I'm going to tell you what you should buy instead, which is the Sonos One. So I'm going to talk about three different things today: the actual sound quality itself, the battle of the assistants, and then I'm also going to talk about some of the integrations or lack thereof when talking about the HomePod. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the price comparison between the two and what you should probably spend your $350 on. So let me just get this right out of the way. The HomePod sounds amazing. Out of all the smart assistant speaker things that are out on the market right now, it definitely is the one that I feel personally sounds the best. But that still doesn't mean you should go out and buy it. When I'm talking about the sound from the HomePod, it just has this more full, rich sound to it that just fills a room in comparison to others. The reason the HomePod sounds better is because some of the technical specs that it has. It just has more hardware inside its package. That's a weird thing to say. Please don't demonetize me, YouTube. The HomePod has this high excursion woofer with a custom amp in it, has 6 tweeters, which explains a lot why the HomePod sounds so amazing. Any instrumentals or voices just pour out of the HomePod. It's not forced at all. It just flows and fills the room completely full of this really rich, vibrant sound, and I like it a lot. However, I just don't like some of the other things about it. The bass isn't overpowering because obviously Apple uses the same black magic that Google does, where it kind of pushes the sound out, uses AI machine learning, and then pulls it back in to make sure that you always have the best sounding smart speaker inside the room, regardless of where you place it. So again, from a sound perspective, the HomePod's gonna win, and that's okay because the Sonos One and every other smart assistant gives me more options than the Siri powered HomePod. Now the Sonos One has some really cool, interesting hardware as well. It has a 6 microphone array, and it can hear you from anywhere in the room, and I'll go ahead and tell you how annoying that is when you go, Alexa, and you can be anywhere in the room and it will possibly hear you. Hey Alexa. So that's the first bit. Okay, so you can see it way over on the other side of the room, and I'm talking directly at you. Hey Alexa. How sensitive is that? Holy crap. Alexa.
Sorry, I don't know that.
It is absolutely one of the most sensitive microphone arrays I have ever seen. It's borderline crazy. Okay, not borderline crazy. It absolutely is crazy because you just go, Alexa, and it just hears you all the time when you say Alexa. It's, see, bananas. I don't understand it. So the Sonos One is built on the mini but the mighty blueprints of the Play One, and I'm going to just read you some of the actual marketing material meticulously tuned to the speaker's unique acoustic architecture. It has a lot of power in the package that it has. It's a wonderful smart speaker. I just wish it was a little bit smarter by having the Google Assistant. So the Sonos One has 1 tweeter inside of it, and in comparison to the HomePod, I thought it was going to get crushed because it had 6. It actually didn't sound too bad. So much like the HomePod, the music just flowed out of the Sonos One. Sonos has got this right in terms of the architecture, AI, machine learning to make sure that the sound sounds absolutely perfect at any volume except at 100%. It feels a little bit forced. It feels a lot like the Google Home Max, where it's just going to force the sound down your throat, whereas the HomePod, it just kind of flows and overwhelms your body. So HomePod definitely wins on the sound. That's going to be the last win that the HomePod gets in this video because it lacks everywhere else. Both assistants can do some basic stuff very well. When you're searching for items or checking the weather, it's going to have the ability to do that. However, both Siri and Alexa can't really do complex commands, whereas the Google Assistant, you can ask how tall Michael Jordan is, and then follow that up with when was he born, and it would tell you, whereas Siri and Alexa can't do that. Alexa can currently check your calendar, and it can check my calendar because I set it up on the Sonos One. So that now means that I can use my Android device with the Sonos One and the Google Home Assistant. The big thing is here, Siri cannot recognize different voices. I talked about it in my last video. This is why it's a big deal. Let's say that you have your Apple iPhone hooked up to your HomePod. Somebody walks in and says, check my messages. That person can now control your iMessages even though that's not their account. That's a no-fly zone. That's too much of a weird situation, meaning they can check your messages and send messages on your behalf. Yeah, I don't think so. So the Sonos One, you can teach Alexa to recognize your voice, although it's a bit clunky compared to the Google Assistant where you have to repeat the keywords 3 times. Alexa actually asks you to repeat 10 different phrases, and that's how she recognizes your voice. It does work. We've compared it to Greg and I and myself. that's 3 people, myself and Greg, and it does work, but it's really, really clunky. Both can make phone calls, both can send messages, so they're a tie there. However, I couldn't set that up on the Sonos One because that is the only Alexa-powered device that I have. So for the integration piece, what about all the music services that the whole world has? From the HomePod perspective, right now, the only integration that you really have that truly can take advantage of the voice controls is Apple Music. That's it. If you're using the HomePod and you're not using Apple Music, you're pretty much out of luck. This is not a Bluetooth speaker, and they make that very abundantly clear. You have to use AirPlay, and then soon to be AirPlay 2, which kind of gives some updates that are really needed right now out of the box for the HomePod. So that means the 70 million users of Spotify, yep, you can use AirPlay, so you can tell Siri to cast it basically to AirPlay, but you're not going to get any of those fancy voice controls like you would natively if you had Apple Music. From the Sonos One perspective, this is a Bluetooth speaker. I'm able to use it with my Google account right out of the box, which is fantastic. If I have Amazon Music or anything like that, the integration with Alexa makes it super seamless that I can ask and, hey, play music, and it's fine, dandy. I don't have that. I use it as a Bluetooth speaker. I can actually tell the Google Assistant to cast a song to it. So again, not nearly as seamless like that of the Google Assistant, but as soon as that comes to the Sonos One this year, it's pretty much going to be the best smart speaker that Google has other than the Google Home Max. So for $350, you can buy one single HomePod, and that might be good enough for some folks if you meet the qualifications of being in Apple's ecosystem, having AirPlay, and not really caring about anything else that I mentioned. To me, that's a big deal. However, for the exact same $350, you can go out today and buy 2 Sonos Ones, which means you can put them in stereo pair. You could fill 2 rooms full of sound. And this thing gets super loud, so you will fill potentially an entire first floor of a house with just 2 speakers with really good, rich sounding music. So at the end of the day, the reason why I say don't buy the HomePod and buy the Sonos One, the main reason is it's cheaper and you can get just a much better value for buying 2 Sonos Ones versus 1 HomePod. But the limitations of the HomePod still make it a no-go, no-buy for me because you just can't do as much as you can with other smart speakers. So TLDR, take the $350, buy 2 Sonos Ones, and enjoy the sound of the music because honestly, most folks are not going to notice the difference. So that's it. That's all I have. Thanks for watching. Join us on our live shows 6 p.m. every single Friday. And as always, like, share, subscribe, thumbs up, leave a comment below, and we will see you next time.